to the second of two videos on the laws of exponents. What we're going to go over right now are two more laws. Now, they are not going to be even more complicated than the ones we just did before, but they are the ones that people tend to make the most mistakes with. Even though, in my opinion, there might be one of some of the easiest ones, it's also very easy to overthink it. So, just start to stay focused for this lesson right here. The first law that we're going to deal with, because we dealt with these first three, the first one is called negative powers. And that is, if an exponent is negative, what it effectively does is it finds the inverse of our expression. Or, in another sense, it flips it over. So this is a to the m, a to the negative m, right here, comes to the bottom, and notice how it's no longer negative. If it stayed negative, then it would just keep on flipping up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It would never stop. So once you flip it, the negative goes away. Keep that in mind. It doesn't turn the whole thing negative. All it does is it flips it over. So here's an example right here. 3 to the negative 5. That is just going to be 1 over 3 to the 5. And then we can simplify that more if you want to, but I'm just showing you what the negative part does. Now, if there was a negative right here, it would actually flip it back upwards. So think of the negative as just you telling the expression to roll over, like it's a dog. The other law is called the zero powers. And this is the most simplest of all the laws, if you remember this little trick. And that is simply this. Anything to the zero power is 1. This right here could be 2, 10, negative 5, 1 billion. All the zero power does is it turns something equal to 1. For example, 4 to the 0. That's going to equal 1. So don't overthink that too much. Now, with all of these laws, these are 5 moves. Remember, it's like a video game. You have 5 different things you can deal with exponents. Let's go ahead and try a few more examples. I'm going to actually do 3 examples for this one. I'm going to shrink this a little bit so I have enough room for this example right here. So notice already, this looks like it's a big mess right here. I see some multiplication, so we probably have product powers. I see some divisions, probably have quotient powers, but wait a second. There's a 0. Isn't the 0 power? So everything inside of here, doesn't matter what's in here, this whole thing becomes 1. That's it, you're done. Don't overthink that. If you see a 0 power, it just turns the whole thing equal to 1. And that's it for example 1. Let's try example 2 though. Example 2, 5x to the negative 2. I can't do anything with the 5 and the x, but I'm seeing a negative in the exponent. So we're clearly dealing with negative powers. And notice only x has a negative exponent. 5 is completely clean. In fact, think about it. What is 5's exponent? Yeah, it's 1. But we don't have to worry about that. So because it's a negative exponent, it's going to take this whole thing right here, and it's going to put it on the bottom. Notice how 5 stays on the top. This negative exponent dragged the x to the bottom, but because 5 didn't have a negative exponent, it stays at the top. Now there's nothing else that we can do. There's no more negative exponents. We can't simplify these two. We're done. Let's do one last example. And it's very similar to the last one, but take a look at this. Notice how in the first one, there were no parentheses here. But in this one, there are. So we have to remember that this whole thing has an exponent of negative 2. Now 5 does have a negative exponent because it is affecting everything. So with that in mind, let's deal with the negative exponent first. Before we even do anything else, because it's negative, what's going to happen is this whole thing gets dragged to the bottom. And we could stop here, except for, if you remember from the previous lesson, we're not done. Because this exponent is on the outside of parentheses, so it's clearly going to be a power of powers. Before we move on, we have to remind ourselves, what are the exponents of 5 and x right now inside the parentheses? They both have an invisible 1. Okay? So then all we're going to do now is we're going to distribute. We're going to multiply this. Remember, that's what power of powers is, the 2 times 1 and 2 times 1. So it becomes 1, 5 to the 2, x to the 2. And it'd be a mistake to stop here because can't we find out what 5 to the second power is? Isn't that just 5 times 5? That's 25. Now we're done. So that right there was just us doing a little bit more work than before. And that's because everything was hit by the negative 2 because of the parentheses and not just the x. But those are just 3 examples. Don't feel afraid. We will most certainly be working more on this in class. But I want you guys to try a few practice problems first. So make sure you look at the post and you turn that work in. Have a good day, guys. Bye.